back, Lake listeners. Thank you for tuning in for more of the Grow, Thrive, Inspire podcast. Today we are blessed to have another full pot of coffee and our broker owner Jeff here to share another Java tip about our local area. Jeff, thanks so much for being here. I hope your coffee is amazing. Are you ready to chat about some of these questions that we keep getting about the market? I'm really interested to hear what your opinion is.
Too much coffee. I'm excited. I'm amped up. I'm nervous. I'm shaking. I'm ready.
Okay, so our Java tip today is around the question, is our local market changing? And I really wanted to expand on this for our listeners. So to kick this off, is our market changing? Have we seen an influx of any new generations or an influx of any demographics, really?
So here's the deal. People ask all the time, how's your market? And it's kind of a baited question because there's a lot of markets at the Lake of the Ozarks. So, the answer back for any agent or any consumer really is well, which market are you talking about? Are you talking about lakefront single-family homes? Are we speaking about full-time off-water residences? Are we talking about condominiums? I'm not trying to be facetious, but there are a lot of different markets. So, yes, I think the general answer is our market is changing. We have had an increase in full-time living. We've seen an increase in our schools. Our schools here are incredible. We're really blessed to have great schools. But both Osage and Camden have reported increases. So we're definitely seeing growth in the area. I don't think the second home buyer, I don't think it's a new generation. I think the people may be pulling the trigger a little quicker. I know we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but when I started in real estate, it was very common that we saw these long, drawn-out incubation periods where people had been vacationing, and someday when they retire, in 5 years when we retire, in 3 years when we retire, that's when we're going to buy. I don't know that we're seeing that today. I think people like the lifestyle here. I think they recognize the value with respect to cost of living and our taxes and just basically what you get for your money. I think they love that. And I think because of everything else that's going on in the world today, maybe they're not willing to wait so long to make it happen. So
that makes sense. I could definitely see how they're pulling the trigger faster. And do you think that is anywhere or has anything to do with the COVID issues going on as well? Or is it just because of the market and the area that we live in? Just more people wanting to be here.
I don't think we've changed. I think, media and exposure, whether it's, however it's taken is usually good. And I do think COVID got the word about the lake out. In some fashion, it was probably meant to be negative initially. People here are not disrespectful. We did take notice and pay attention, but there was a lot of ability to continue living life here, and I think people enjoyed that, and so I think that did have a little bit of an impact.
How has our market changed in terms of supply and demand with real estate?
That's interesting. So we talk about this a lot because we heard, as we went through the spring and came into summer, we would continually hear from both our buyers and sellers and from our other agents that we work with and agents in our firm for that matter that inventory is so low. Inventory is really low. And so we did some analyzation about that, and this year, every month, except for 2 months, there has been more that has come onto the market than the same month last year. Those 2 months that were lower were March and April.
Right.
Well, we know what happened in March and April. We were all a little nervous and didn't quite know what was going to happen, so Absolutely. It's natural that March and April were down. But every other month, May, June, July, more listings have come on the market in those months than the same period of time last year. even January and February. So, the inventory has not declined in what has come on. It's just sold faster. So supply and demand has absolutely changed. People are, again, they're willing to pull the trigger quicker. They have all of their affairs in order. So their financing is in place. They have the down payment. Typically, they don't fall out. It has caused a little bit of frustration from buyers and sellers because of the multiple offers that we're dealing with. We've never dealt with more of those in our lives, and if you're prepared and you have the right expectation, it's not a bad place to be. The people who are winning today are the ones that are getting into the market, that are getting, that are buying the place that they're looking for. But you have to have the right expectation of what's going to happen during that process. So the folks who have never dealt with that before, that can be a real shocking deal. Your agent should talk to you ahead of time about what to expect. What potential issues are you going to deal with? And those are all linked to that supply and demand question. It's just the pros and cons of what we're dealing with today.
Yeah, and I definitely agree that they should take the time to explain how the process works, not only with just the process of buying and selling, but just the speed of the market and how that is affecting the different factors of purchasing a home. So that's really great advice. What are you seeing within our market today for sellers and buyers, and what does it mean for them?
So right off our last question about supply and demand, you go into this one, which I think is great because, for a seller today, if you're thinking about selling, you need to get with a very active real estate professional that has been analyzing today's market and has been active in participating in some of these, in representing buyers on the other end of the table, experiencing that multiple offer deal, and representing other sellers. It is a very complex opportunity. And I say it that way because it's not easy to do it right. It takes a professional. But for a seller, there's tremendous opportunity here. Opportunity that lies both in how much can I get for my property. In some parts of our market, it's very, very active. It's very realistic to think about multiple offers and how to leverage those to get the most you can. It also puts you in control of the situation as a seller. Okay. You oftentimes end up with a cleaner contract. Oh. You have to negotiate less during inspections. You can, avoid some of the normal contingencies that you may not be able to avoid when you don't have multiple buyers. Here's the interesting part of it is it doesn't apply to all parts of our market. There are areas of the lake that are not that active. Mm-hmm. You need an agent that's willing to tell you that because you want to form a different strategy when you're in one of those areas or maybe one of those price points. So it's not something to take literally when someone says, "Gosh, we're having multiple offers everywhere in our market." Well, that's not true. It is in certain price points. It's in certain property types. And is it, if it's lakefront, it's in most of the price points, but it's not in all of the areas. So consult an expert to be a seller today is a very good thing. It means that sellers should have a realistic expectation of what buyers are going to have to deal with, and not be overly confident because this type of market causes different concerns for buyers. Mm-hmm. We are seeing a lot of properties not make appraisal. Buyers and their lenders rely on an appraiser's opinion of value meeting or exceeding the purchase price of the contract. If it doesn't, that causes a challenge with the loan.
Right.
Sellers should be understanding of that and expecting if they're in one of those price points. And again, your realtor can tell you if you're in there. If they're active, they can tell you what they've been dealing with before. I know we, brainstorm with our agents all the time about what's going on. This is not an appraiser's fault. The appraiser deals with comps in the past. Mm-hmm.
Not thinking about what's going on.
Right.
currently.
They have to look at those sold comps from, 3 months, 6 months ago. Well, the market's changed a lot in 3 and 6 months.
Absolutely.
It's very possible that given their system, they won't be able to match that value. It doesn't mean it's not worth it, but the buyer and the seller need to expect that if it happens. So,
one other thing that I just thought about as you were talking about these things with sellers and buyers, is there anything that you would recommend to buyers who aren't currently here but are actively looking from a different location?
absolutely. Buyers have a whole nother set of expectations and ways that they have to deal with today's market. What I would suggest to a buyer is become pre-qualified. Know exactly what your down payment needs to be. Get with a good local lender that can help you determine that. Investigate those things ahead of time. If you have a property to sell and you really are serious about buying, sell the property. Get positioned so that when that property comes on the market that you're looking for, you can jump and you can be ready, because there are a lot of properties coming on the market. It's not really a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And when you and your agent know that each of you are ready, you can see it when it comes on, you can get in the game. You may or may not have to participate in a multiple offer, but if you do, you can learn the rules of it and you can win. You can prosper, you can buy that property that you want, and you can be in a good position.
Well, is there any other lake offerings here for some of these demographics that we've talked about? I mean, you mentioned second home owners, and then maybe even just the typical tourists that we see come during the seasonal months. Outside of just our families and our locals here, anything that appeals, in your opinion, to these other demographics?
Absolutely. I mean, the growth of the lake, both on water and off, it seems to be stretching that, appealing to everyone. You got little, not little things like the malted monkey.
Right.
I mean, how cool is that
Yeah,
place?
that just came up. That is.
Now, I have not done it yet, but I've heard a lot of people that have. That is basically a ropes course. Is that how? Not really a ropes course,
It's like
but
this climbing rope. It's all
so cool.
Yeah.
I have
Next
heard.
to Tucker Shuckers.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about that. You've got, all the we had our daughter and her family down maybe a month ago, 2 little girls, and we were able to get on the boat on a Sunday and go to have a great boat ride down to the dam, come back and stopped at a restaurant. We were at the restaurant eating lunch, and a band set up. And after we got done eating lunch, we got in their pool and swam. So, I mean, where do you go to do that?
Right.
She's like, I forget, but we can't do this in Peoria.
That's true.
And so I know some areas have lots of attractions like that, but in general, there's just a lot of great stuff to do, both on and off the water.
Well, Grow, Thrive, and Inspire listeners, we could not be more thankful to Jeff for bringing his knowledge and history here and sharing it with us for this Java tip. We have more episodes coming for season 1 of the show, so be sure to tune back in on Wednesdays and find us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Instagram, or you can visit growthriveinspirepodcast.com. Be sure to also check out our Remax Lake of the Ozarks Facebook page for any open houses coming up. Open houses are posted on Thursdays for the upcoming weekend. We are getting thankful for Thanksgiving, and we know you will fall for our lake area. And remember to always grow, thrive, and inspire. We'll see you soon.